Hey, Pink Sync friends. Happy Monday. This is a beautiful Monday night, and I am here with my really good friend Sherrie, who has been through breast cancer and through lots of kind of unique challenges. And she is 10 weeks out post deep flap reconstruction. And so we are going to interview her and let her share her story of hope, and I'm just super excited to be here with her tonight. So I'm going to flip it around, and there's Sherrie Pacheco. First of all, Sherrie, just tell us a little bit about you, because you are so much more than a breast cancer survivor. I mean, that's amazing and strong, but there's so much more to you and your identity. So just tell us about who you are.
Okay. I've been a fitness instructor for over 30 years. Um, I didn't even have a general doctor. I just had an OB where I would go have my babies and come home and
Because they
jump
were
back
just
into my
so
life. Yeah.
healthy.
Never taken any medicines, no Tylenols, no IVs, no nothing. And so to get diagnosed with breast cancer and then to be told you have to do this, this, and this, and take these meds was rough for me. I
Because
had
you're
to
so
really,
natural.
yeah, I had to really consider, you know, at first I thought, no, I can do this naturally, but I chose to follow
Yeah, I remember
a
you
doctor.
really kind of having a lot of conversations with a lot of people, and then you talked to me, and I had been through, I don't know if I'd been through all of my chemo at that point, but you were just kind of picking my
Well, it's
brain
like we
about it.
both got started at the same time. You had a whole different plan because of a different type of cancer. But yeah, and then my kids came and said, "Mom, we're doing the treatments." I'm like, "Oh."
They were just as invested.
Yeah.
Thank you,
They
Sherrie.
wanted me to follow what the doctors said.
So good. So
Yeah.
good. Okay, so tell us about how you even ended up going to the doctor to find out that you had
Okay.
cancer.
Sure. Um, One thing that I want to mention is that for a year or so, I'd had this pain in my leg. And I had been saying that, gosh, I can't figure out what this is. And I went to physical therapist, I went to a sports medicine, we did x-rays, we couldn't figure out where this pain was originating from. And I kept saying, guys, I think I have cancer in my leg. I have a really dear friend who her grandson went through pains in his legs, and they finally took him to the pediatrician, and he had a rare cancer. And Nixon Strong, just FYI, Nixon Strong. Anyways, um, we couldn't figure it out. And one night I woke up in the middle of the night because I had the same pain radiating down my arm. And so I woke up and I'm like, oh, that hurts. But I could tell. So I touched it was coming from here and there was a lump. And I wasn't super scared, but I did call my doctor in the morning, and they said, well, cancer isn't painful, so you're fine.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I'm like, okay. And I believed that. And then
Yeah.
3 weeks later, I woke up again with the same pain radiating down my arm, the same pain that was in my leg. And, it came from this little lump I had found.
And was the lump itself hurting?
That's where it started, but it
Okay.
throbbed my arm.
Mm,
And that's what I had in my leg was like if I would drive, my leg would throb and my foot would go numb. So um, I called again, and I called my OB this time, and she says, you need to just go in and get your mammogram, which I had just had about 4 months prior to this.
okay.
It was a clear mammogram. I was preparing for a big yoga certification, so I wanted to have all of that out of the way, and everything came back clear, super healthy, and this just came out of nowhere. They did a diagnostic mammogram and said, okay, we need to do an ultrasound right now. And during the ultrasound, the radiologist, what would that
Yeah,
be? Yeah,
radiologist.
she said, you have cancer, pick a surgeon, we've got to get going. And I says,
Wow.
wait a minute, you didn't even do a biopsy. And she says, I've been doing this for 30 years and I know what to look for.
Oh my goodness.
So, um,
Shock.
yeah, it was a shock. I did some research. I honestly believed that it would cure itself before I went in. I'm kind of a modest person, and I, I wanted what God has given me, and I felt like I should be able to keep that. Um,
I totally relate to that.
yeah, yeah. But we got people involved. It took me a minute to find the right oncologist. The first oncologist wasn't really into the same. I don't know. I felt like God should be considered in all of this, and he wasn't really on that same page. But I did find one that they say is super good, and I'm pleased with him. But he did say, yes, we've got to do something. And so the recommendation was a single mastectomy, and then chemo, radiation. It had gotten into my lymph system 8 out of 20. So they said chemo, radiation, and then meds, and of course reconstruction. And
Was it estrogen positive, progesterone
yes,
positive?
estrogen positive.
Okay.
Little bit progesterone, but mostly estrogen.
Okay.
There was another type of cancer too that they found with an MRI biopsy, but the treatment was the same. The recommendation was the same.
What was the other cancer?
Um,
Was it like HER2? Or was it like not breast cancer?
no, it was another cancer. I think it was the one where it didn't start spreading yet.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Which is a different stage.
yeah.
Okay.
But they said they wouldn't know how much they would have to take until they checked the lymph nodes.
Okay.
But once they got started checking those, it was quite invasive.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
So how long did you wait between, maybe you already said this, but when you first called your doctor, when you were feeling those pains in your arm and you felt it?
Okay, so 3 weeks after that, I had the same pain. So I called. 3 weeks after that was the mammogram. And then they said, figure out your doctors and then let's go. So I ended up having a mastectomy. I was diagnosed on April 22nd and had the mastectomy on June 30th.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you do any treatments or chemo before that?
Nothing before that. Nope. So it was totally different than what you went through, because I know you started treatments first. They wanted to do the surgery first and then chemo and radiation.
Because then they could see that it was in the lymph nodes during the mastectomy.
Yeah, they knew it was in the lymph nodes. And I think that this type of cancer, they know how to treat it, whereas yours, they just do the best they can. So I'm probably lucky in that sense, because
I don't think anybody's lucky that
you know, there's been a lot of good things happen from
That's
this,
true.
but
That's true.
but yeah.
I mean, you've always been so positive. I mean, you've been an inspiration to me personally.
Oh.
Because you've always been so positive, and it's not like you're just gonna sit back and say, okay, yeah, whatever, I'm just gonna let whatever happen. You're a fighter, but you're always focused on gratitude and seeing the good things that come
Yeah.
through.
I honestly believed, sorry, the meds that I'm on make my eyes water so much so I can't even wear makeup. I always thought the cancer would be gone by the time I went in. I believed strongly that it was going to go away.
You're a woman of strong faith.
Yes, absolutely. But like I said, my kids and a good friend at Bikram Yoga said, you don't need to be a poster child for natural. She said, let's do this. Let's get this year out of the way. And I'm on 2 years now. So it's like, I thought this was going to be a 1 year thing and I'm done, but no, I'm still, I go to the doctors all of the time, and
yeah. Like, it's a part-time job that you get and you think, oh, it's just going to be a temp job.
Yeah. Yeah, it almost is. It's almost a full-time.
Really?
Yeah, it feels like it sometimes.
Yeah.
But like I said, a lot of good things have come from it, and I got out of a job that was not healthy or safe for me, which I would have never left had I not had.
And why did this help you leave?
Because one day I realized, I just kept fighting and fighting and fighting and trying to be there and realizing I wasn't getting the best treatment from um, my supervisors. And one day it hit me. I've had cancer, and stress is not good for that.
Yeah.
So, in fact, my daughter had worked with me, and she had left before I did and said, Mom, my family's going through cancer and they're not understanding that. And so I didn't really get it as quick as she did. But when I did get it, I went in my office and packed up my things, and I'm like, okay, you're right. This will all be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It maybe empowered you to put yourself first, maybe?
Yep. And stress is a
Yourself
big
first.
thing with
Yes.
cancer, and people pleasing is a big thing with cancer.
Yeah. Yeah, I can relate to that. Not with the job situation, but it makes you sit
Family.
down and look at your life
Yeah.
and say, what is happening? And I need to heal, and how can I allow that to happen with my situation?
Yeah.
You know, I have to make room for that healing to happen and take the time to take care of myself.
Yeah.
Not just everybody else.
And not worry about tomorrow, not worry about the financial side of things or anything like that.
So true. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so you had your mastectomy
Mm-hmm.
June 30th.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you do after?
So then we waited till I healed a little bit, and we started, I think at the end of August, we started chemo. And there's this thing that patients call red devil, but the doctor doesn't call it that. And when they told me what it was called, I did a little research. I'm like, oh, is that red devil? And he says, well, we don't like to call it that. It's a pretty strong chemo, as you know, because you had that too.
Yeah,
Adriamycin, yes. So I have my little hummingbird feeders over here, and the food for the hummingbirds is red. It's a red juice. So I would sit out here every morning on my patio, and one day I decided, okay, so the red devil, it's now hummingbird juice. And we're going to go in, because I could not actually picture myself allowing them to put that in my body.
Yeah.
And
it's a whole mental thing.
Oh, it's so big. And I had decided I'm going to allow them to take everything out of my system, because it kills everything. And then I will only allow back in what I want. And it was hummingbird juice. And after I got diagnosed, I had been taking care of my dad, and he had a massive stroke years before, and they couldn't figure out why he was still alive. He was still with it, but paralyzed, his left side. And when I told him, hey, Dad, they say I have breast cancer, and I probably won't be able to be with you as much as I have been. And he said, okay, stink bug. He says, you'll be okay. And then he passed a week later.
Oh, wow. Oh, gosh.
Which I think was a blessing to both of us. And he had always told me that his mom would visit him as a hummingbird when she passed. So I'm sitting out here on my patio one day, and I hear this noise behind me. And I turn around, and there's two hummingbirds, which I assume was my dad and his mom, my grandma Jessie. And that's when I decided, okay, we're going to go get Red Devil, and it's now hummingbird juice, and we're going to get through it.
Yeah.
And that's how I got through Red Devil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. I know my sister had to help me just shift perspective. Like, I really didn't want to get that port put inside me.
Yeah.
That was really hard mentally for me. And she's like, instead of calling it a port, let's call it your cancer fighter, And she just shifted and she called the chemo something about, cancer fighting juice. I can't remember. I need to go look at my notes because I wrote it all down, but that shift in perspective is really powerful.
That's where it's at, is the perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then to have those little beautiful miracles happen,
Yeah.
And maybe that doesn't look the same way to other people, but
Oh.
You have those.
Absolutely. You have to create, You have to tell the story from a different perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so you did How many months of chemo?
So I did 4 um, Red Devils, and then they switched me to another one for 4 more sessions, and I got it every 2 weeks. Um, and this was my place out here. This is where I would recover.
So beautiful out here.
Yeah, it was really good. I I didn't listen to what they said would happen or the possibilities. I decided I was going to let my own body tell me where I was at with my treatment instead of saying, oh, nauseous and all of that. I decided, no, we're going to wait and see how I feel.
Right.
And I really made it through very well. And
so as far as like taking the meds that they gave you,
so
is that what you're talking about?
Well,
they take all of these meds every night after chemo.
yeah, a little bit. So remember I said I was not big on meds. I didn't take Tylenol or IBs or anything. So to come home with 4 different prescriptions after a chemo session, I'm like, well, and then I did the research on each drug. And so I called my doctor and I says, can I just wait and see how I feel? And they said, yes. Sorry, we're on the golf course and they're out there. They must have got a hole in one. But so I decided I was going to wait and see how my body felt. And my doctor said, okay, but have the meds in case you need it. And, I think I did better without the meds. That was me.
Yeah.
That just me. And that's how I went through chemo. Radiation didn't feel like a big deal at all. The people that did the radiation, fantastic people. It was quick. Did you end up doing okay? So it was like a 10-minute visit. They just get you in there and get you out of there so quick, and the people were so kind, and I did fine with that. I didn't get burned or blistered or anything like that. Yeah. They would play music that I would request, and Tanya Tucker is where it's at for me. So they would play her best hits.
And you can still listen to her now.
Oh, I just got back from Jackson Hole, her concert.
Oh, that's
yeah,
so
I follow
cute.
her. Her belief in God is so amazing to me that I just, like, I would say, okay, I'm going to reward myself with a Tanya Tucker concert. So yeah, so I got through that, and then medications, because it was in my lymph system. I'm on Verzenio. That's a 2-year plan, and then anastrozole, which is similar to a tamoxifen, I believe, and that's a 5 to 10-year plan with their own side effects. Verzenio makes your hair fall out again, so I'm losing my hair again, but I'm doing the best I can.
Okay, so tell us about, was it a year ago that you were having problems with your lungs?
Oh, so in September, so I had the mastectomy in 2022. In September of 2023, yeah, I started chemo in 22, and I did radiation in early 23. September of 2023, I had taught a class. I went back to teaching fitness, and I had taught a class, and I thought, oh, I tweaked my back. It's kind of hurting. And so I felt like it was a chiropractor thing. So I went in, and the chiropractor says, oh, yeah, that's what it is. And I went to a new one because mine wasn't in. So I went to this new one, and he said, you need to have this many sessions. And I thought, okay. But that night I got home, and about 1 a.m, I was in severe pain. The first pain I've had since I got cancer. So my husband took me over to emergency, and it was blood clots in my lungs, both lungs.
And they did like a CAT scan?
Yes. And they said, you're lucky you came in. And he said, it is not your back. And they put me on blood thinners, and they talked to my cancer doctor. They wanted me to go off one of the meds because one of the side effects is blood clots. But my doctor says, we have to treat the blood clots. You have to stay on the meds because I'm high risk.
So what do they do to make sure you don't have another blood clot?
The blood thinners.
Oh,
Yeah. So I'm on those right now. So for a girl who never took meds, I have this little pill box and, but it's okay.
The things we do.
I assume it's temporary.
Yeah.
Um, so that was September, and haven't really had any problems. Currently, my last blood test showed that my white blood cell count was low. So there is a small chance they'll take me off of the Verzenio, which fights the cancer. And I go in this week to find out where my blood counts are. And I'm sure they're going to be back up so I can maintain and take the meds. And
could they just lower the dosage?
They could lower I'm on the highest dose that they prescribe, and I've been able to manage it. So they could do that. I'm hopeful that it'll just be back up. Yeah. And my thoughts are, I had Reconstruction in May.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So let's talk about that.
Yes.
So they give you, my plastic surgeon all along has said, you're a candidate for deep flap. And so I just followed that. I really trust him. Dr. John Hijawi, fantastic plastic surgeon. The reason why he's in this is quite amazing, and you can find that out by, Googling him. And anyways, it just so happened that my insurance company decided that they weren't going to cover this because of the complications for some people. And I was on a Facebook group, and I was getting kind of scared of it because people were posting, look what's happening to me or whatever. And so I went back to my doctor, John Hijawi, and he showed me his book, and he talked about my health going into it. And I'm pretty healthy. I don't smoke and all of that. And he said, I just still feel like this is the best. I went and I got a second opinion from a doctor to do a cosmetic doctor to get implants. And it didn't feel right to me. I just didn't feel like I should put something in my body when cancer came on so quick. So I decided, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to wait. And I knew I had this piece that my insurance company would approve it. And I got a phone call because we had to appeal it a couple of times. And then I got a phone call from the scheduler at the plastic surgeon. And when I saw the phone number on my phone, I'm like, okay. So it had been approved, and they had actually had a cancellation. So I was hoping for the end of July, but they had a cancellation May 6th. I'm like, okay, let's go. And
how long were your expander in?
So from June 30th of 22, and they took it out May 6th of 24.
Almost
2 years. Yeah. That's incredible. Yeah, almost 2 years. And it was fine. I mean, it was awkward and hard, and I teach yoga. I teach all kinds of fitness, so it was just kind of a hard thing in my body. It didn't bother me. I was fine. I knew that it was temporary. But so May 6th I had the surgery, and everything I had read or studied was nothing like I went through. I had zero problems. I had zero pain. My doctor was so good. His team is so good. Shout out to Lena Brady, his assistant. I saw things of open wounds that people were packing for months. I had no problems, and I actually felt like so good, like I could probably just resume life at that point. But they told me, no, you have to take the time, take it easy. And
so you did.
Yep, I took it easy. I started teaching a few classes right around 5 or 6 weeks post-op, mostly coaching.
Okay.
But so now I'm
straining that decision.
Yeah. And I still have my binder on. They told me that 6 months it's best to wear a binder, so I have my binder, and I found these fantastic jumpers that allow me to wear my binder, and
cute too.
Yeah, they're fantastic, especially in this hot weather. Yes. I stay hydrated. The first thing in the morning, I do an electrolyte, and I've made my own kefir, and I put it with collagen and protein, and I think that's part of the reason why
Yeah.
I've done so good. I'm focusing on protein, I'm healing good, but I still have, if I'm craving something, I'm going to have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I make sure I get my electrolytes and my kefir and my collagen and protein, and I'm super good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm just so happy for you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's
So
been
happy for
really
you.
silver linings the whole
Yeah.
way.
So are you happy with the results? Will you need a revision?
So I probably wouldn't need a revision because he did so good, but um, I do I do want to go have the left side lifted, and I guess as the swelling goes down, I've got some little I don't know what they call it. Do you know what they
Dog
call it?
ears?
Dog ears or
Yeah.
something.
Hmm.
So I'll have him do that, and it's standard. Some people have 2 and 3 and 4 surgeries.
I know. I just learned that a few months
Yeah.
ago. I'm
So
like,
did you do
wow.
phase 2 yet?
No, I'm scheduled next month
Oh,
for my
good.
second.
Yeah. So I'll do a second phase 2.
Okay.
Um, but I'm super happy. Like I'd be fine without, but I mean,
Yeah.
you go through
Might
this,
as
you want to make
well.
sure that,
Yeah.
yeah,
And especially since you probably met your deductible,
right?
right? You might as
Yeah.
well get that done
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine, I did, my deep flap, I did October 30th. So I couldn't do the revision until the next year. And then I was like, I just want a break from surgeries for a while. And so I asked if I could just wait.
Yeah.
And she let me wait.
So how many months between first and
Well,
second?
October 30th and then my revision will be August 26th.
Oh, so almost a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And
they
I'm
say you
fine
need a
with
good
that.
6 months to recover.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I'm just like, I just don't want to do another recovery, but at the same time, I also want to get to the point where I'm like, I'm on the other side
done
of
with
it.
it. Yeah.
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 So it's just that mental thing that's hanging over my head. I know that's coming and disruption to life and stuff.
Yeah.
But
I've
just,
used it as a time to rest. To have a doctor tell you you have to sit down and rest. I'm like, okay. Then you can tell everybody in your world. I've been told, because I'm used to kind of being the caregiver and the
yeah.
so it's been nice to be told sit down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to figure out how to just
Yeah.
rest. Yeah. Take care of yourself first.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you have any, like, if you have one key piece of advice to give to people if they are heading out on this cancer journey, like what would be your biggest piece of advice for them?
Well, I'm going to put it in a couple of different ways. But the way that it is Jesus. That's for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's gotten me through this, and studying and
Building
knowing that I have help. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But for others, it could be universe. It could be positive attitude, and that's what it is. It's being positive and knowing, okay, this has been given to me, and I'm gonna walk through this in a way that might help somebody else. And I'll tell you. So I do teach hot yoga, as you know, and I was working this last Friday, and I walked in the room to pass out some cold essential oil towels after a class, and I stepped in I stepped in someone's sweat, and my left leg slid out in front of me, and I went down in the splits and tweaked my hamstring, and I'm like, okay, I cried. And I don't think I've cried up until that point. It's because I'm feeling so good and I'm ready. I'm teaching again, and I'm ready to go. And then to have this happen, I'm like, no, can I have the whole pass? So the tears came, but it's healing very quickly. What's today? Monday? This happened on Friday. I'm doing well. I still taught my step class on Saturday.
Wow.
I walked around when I needed to, but being positive and 80% of the time taking care of yourself. I did have over the weekend a couple of cold stone Sundays. Feeling bad for myself, but I just think learning what you need to learn from the experience.
I love that. And maybe just this is life. What am I going to do with it? Like,
Yeah.
this is the situation.
Yep.
My choice is, what am I going to do with it?
You either grow or you get bitter.
Yeah, so true. And we all have really crappy days and sometimes weeks and months. But we can still choose, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, this is hard, but is there anything good that I can find?
Yeah. And most of the time there is.
Yeah, that gratitude and
Yeah.
looking for the good
Yeah.
and choosing.
And taking a minute to breathe and say, well, how do I really feel? Am I okay? Like, I'm okay right now.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we panic, and I do that too. I look at the future and go, oh no.
Right.
But I've had to just go, okay, but I'm okay right now. You know,
Yeah.
I'm going to put on a movie.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't need to live my life the way it was. I can take a minute and rest or read or journal or
Take care of myself.
or visit with my friend,
Yes.
and we can compare notes.
Yes.
And
Well, you're just amazing.
I think you are. I
You're
think that,
truly an inspiration to me. And so many times I would think, well, Sherry's going through this too. And she's doing okay.
you know, I have to tell you, I was just telling my friend at church about you and what you've done for people who are now being diagnosed, and what you've done is amazing. And you're providing an opportunity for them to learn and to find help and all of that, and to network. Or yeah. And I says, I didn't do that. I didn't do that with this situation. And she said, you don't have to.
Yeah, you don't.
She said, you're being an inspiration.
Yes. You're being
And
Sherry.
that's what you're supposed to do. Maybe she was supposed to create Pink Sink, and you know, so it made me feel better.
We all have our own journey. We all have our own things that we do. And I think creating Pink Sink was therapeutic for me.
Yeah.
Because I felt like so much was beyond my control. Relationships were beyond my control. Things were happening in my body and in my family that I could not control. And so that was my way of finding something that I could control and give back.
And it's amazing, and it has been so helpful. I mean, just being at the last event and listening to the women, you know, you had us move different spots, and to hear the women and how grateful they were that we have a place to go.
Yeah.
Good job.
Well, thank you. But thank you for sharing your story, because I think that these stories are so valuable. Because, like, just think, if you were just first diagnosed, wouldn't you want to just sit down and like listen to somebody's journey?
Absolutely.
And then see how great they're doing and think, okay, I can do that too.
Yeah. And I think the beauty of it is everything I had read, nothing was like what I was going through,
Right.
but little bits and pieces from
Yes.
everybody was. So it's nice to hear that. You know, I think it's so beneficial.
Amen.
I didn't even realize that cancer could be terminal until about 3 months ago. I literally did not understand the magnitude of cancer. And then I went, oh, this could be bad.
Yeah. Yep.
But
and there are lots of Pink Sink sisters that are stage 4 and fighting, and they are never the victim. They just keep fighting, and they are truly an inspiration. They're amazing.
Well, and you know, it's all a choice too. You get to choose. I lost a friend a year ago. It wasn't breast cancer, but she had battled with cancer, different kinds of cancers, for 50 years. She was diagnosed first at the age of 8. And and she lost the battle a year ago. It ended up being in her stomach, and but she chose to be sassy and feisty. And I love you, Stacey Norton. And I met her at chemo. Yeah, I was sitting, and here she comes walking down and she sat up by me, and her mom was with her, and her mom was just here last week. We're lifetime friends now. Her mom and her sister.
There's something that bonds
you
together.
Yeah.
That shared experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have chemo center friends, loose.
Yeah.
Well, you're amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for.
And I know it will help people. So.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And
Okay.
let me switch back here. Oh, thanks for joining us tonight. And if you have questions or if you want to share your story with us, then just leave a message or contact me. And we would love to hear from you. And we just love you guys and hope that these stories give you hope and help you know that you're not alone. You can do this. Bye, everyone.